Hello and welcome to This Week in Big Sky Football presented by Jimmy John's. I'm your host, Carl Hunt, and today on our show, we will have Eastern Washington head coach Aaron Best, Idaho defensive back Lloyd Hightower, and Stats Craig Haley. Let's take a look back at some highlights from this past weekend. Northern Colorado fell to North Dakota 45-38 on the road. Montana earned a 35-16 win over Weber State. Southern Utah defeated Northern Arizona 31-30 on Senior Day to claim the Hinton Burdick Grand Canyon Trophy. Sacramento State recorded a 31-7 victory at Idaho. Montana State picked up a 27-17 road win at UC Davis, and Eastern Washington battled past Cal Poly to get the 42-41 win. For the second week in a row and the third time this season, the Big Sky Conference has 4 teams in the top 10. With the final weekend of the regular season upon us, the Big Sky is clogging up the top spots quite nicely in the Stats FCS and AFCA FCS Coaches Top 25 polls. Montana has its highest ranking of the season at number 3, while Sacramento State was voted number 4, a school best. Weber State was slotted number 6 and 7, while Montana State comes in at number 8. Eastern Washington and UC Davis received votes this week. The Root Sports Offensive Player of the Week honor went to Montana wide receiver Samare Torre. Grizz linebacker Jace Lewis earned Root Sports Defensive Player of the Week accolades, while Montana State kicker Tristan Bailey was named the Root Sports Special Teams honoree. Remember, Root Sports is the official television partner of the Big Sky Conference. When we return, Eastern Washington head coach Aaron Best will join us on the show. Stay tuned to This Week in Big Sky Football.
Big Sky men's and women's basketball championships are headed to Boise. Buy your tickets now for a fun-filled week with basketball for all to enjoy. Purchase your tickets today by visiting BigSkyInBoise.com. That's BigSkyInBoise.com.
We would like to welcome Eastern Washington head coach Aaron Best to our show today. Welcome, Coach. It's always great to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Eastern Washington is coming off a road win at Cal Poly this past weekend. Congrats on the win. How important was it for the Eagles to get the road win and gain some momentum?
Well, anytime you could get a win, especially on the road against an outfit that's as unique as Cal Poly is on offense, it obviously gives you a little boost of confidence. We hung on, kind of controlled the game for a better part of the game, and ended up winning, albeit by 1. But a win's a win is a win, and anytime you get a win on the road, especially late in the season, is always a pleasure. So got our 6th win and 5th win in conference, and so we'll look to build upon that heading into our last home game of the regular season this week against Portland State.
Your team leads the FCS in total offense and ranks high across the board in numerous categories. How does it feel to see what you teach your guys in practice come to fruition on the field?
Well, obviously, it's a team-driven sport as we coach and are around, with wins being the pride of what we do. But there are some moments that you like throughout the season, whether it be third down percentage, red zone percentage, turnover margin, and offensive, defensive yards given up. When you talk about sides of the football, and so we're using that as a foundation for more success to come. We're used to a lot of success on offense. Albeit I think in the time I've been here at Eastern, we've only ranked number 1 in the country once. Of all the years we've been highly successful, and so that is a positive, a huge positive to say you're number 1 in anything, but especially when you're talking about 100+ teams across the entire nation. Being number 1 is certainly a something that we'll lean upon. But at the end of the day, you'd give up that one to be number 1 in the conference, number 1 in the country as a team when you talk about wins and losses. So hasn't gone the way we had planned, but offensively we've been doing really good things, even though we've been inconsistent at times. To find yourself at the top of the list, and any list, when it comes to that, that's pretty special stuff.
Guiding your offense is Eric Barrier. Can you talk about his versatility to be able to pass and run the ball successfully, and how that keeps opponents on their toes?
Yeah, I think anything with our offense over the years, as dynamic as we've been, it's all about the players. It's all about the system and what we put them in, giving them successful moments to be within the scheme of things, but use individual talents. And so whether it's a receiver, a quarterback, a tight end, or running back, as far as the skill positions are concerned, our system's built for all those pieces to be successful in any situation, any game, any season. And so Eric is a dual threat quarterback. Obviously, you're only as good as your quarterback, no matter what system you're in. And he's played consistent for a better part of the year. Hasn't been entirely healthy the entire year, so we've leaned on a few different guys to be able to carry the load when he hasn't been exactly 100%. And the guys have picked up the slack. But Eric's feeling really good now. Obviously, he's a dynamic player, but he's also a great person. And so he's bought into the system. He's successful in the system, and we've got to continue to strive to allow the guys around him to be better because when we're better around him, that makes him more comfortable in the schemes and the calls we make on Saturday. So he's done a really good job. The second season essentially is starting. He's upwards of 20 starts now in his career, so he's kind of a wily veteran now. But the scheme will always outlive the players here, and he's done a good job embedding himself in the scheme to be able to be as successful as he's been.
The power of educating players to become better young men can't be measured. Talk about the mentorship of you and your coaches to your players and how it helps them develop on and off the field.
Well, there's a few things that come to mind when you talk about the off-the-field piece, and it's not all ball. We harp on books quite a bit. Number one, they're here to do two things: to play the game they love at an institution. I think I'm probably a bit biased with having my degree from here, but to be able to mix ball and books, to get your diploma, to develop some long-standing relationships with your teammates, some that'll be unbroken and unwavering for the rest of your life, is pretty special to see. After the guys that will be honored at Senior Day this weekend, is we have some fourth-year seniors, some fifth-year, and even a few sixth-year seniors. So we've actually kind of melded three classes into this senior class, into the senior recognition. And we always preach it all matters. Everything you do matters. What you do on the field is certainly a byproduct of what you do off of the field, in the training room, in the strength and conditioning room, in the classroom, and in the family setting. And so it's not as if you can lack in one and be great in another. You've got to be consistent, whether you're on the gridiron or off of it, whether it be preparing for a game or preparing for a test in the classroom. It all matters, and that's something we stress over and over, because at the end of the day, we all know the game's going to end for everybody. Just don't know when that time is going to be, and our job and duty is not to just prepare them for Saturdays when they're here, but prepare them for every day once they're gone.
Eastern Washington is known for producing professional players, and you have quite a few playing across the board. Talk about how great it is to see former Eagles continue playing past college.
Well, it's awesome, and you don't take that for granted. Number one, we've had a great set of eyes being able to evaluate those players coming out of high school, because not all those players were definitive NFL or professional players when you saw them in high school. They had special athletic qualities, but that only goes so far when you get to college. There's a lot of things you get to do, and you can't just rest on skill set alone. And so to be able to prepare, to understand schemes, to be able to practice, to be able to lift, to be able to keep and maintain your body, whether it's body weight, joints, ligaments, all that stuff. A little luck it never hurts anybody, but it's special to see the likes of Tywan Jones and Cooper Kupp and Kendrick Bourne and Shaquille Hill had a cup of coffee in the league, Aaron Neary, Clay DeBoard, Samson Ebukam. I mean, the list goes on and on. You guys in the CFL with Victor Gamboa, Josh Lewis, Ryan Phillips was a former player here, TJ Lee, Bo Levi Mitchell, Matt Nichols, Vernon Adams. I mean, just those types of things are special. And when you have a list that long, we're doing something right and they're doing something right while they're here. So to be able to mix those ingredients together and come up with one hell of a list of professional players that are also professional people is special to be able to kind of boast about.
Now, you guys are in the process of a stadium renovation. Premium seating and an expansion of the east side are just a few of what's in store. What does this renovation mean to Eastern Washington athletics?
Well, yeah, I don't think you can put it in words. We've made minor adjustments, minor enhancements over the years with the press box, with the scoreboard, with the field. But we really haven't touched the seating for the people that support this program, this university, this department as dedicated as they have, and that's our fans. And so it's time. It's been necessary, and it's something that we've put a lot of effort in from behind the scenes to be able to make this thing happen. And we've got a little ways to go, but we've got a great start, got a great administration, and got a great backing by the president, her people, as far as pushing this thing forward. And so as an alum of this university and a current employee of this university, it's something that has needed to be done, has yearned to be done, and will be done with a lot of grit, a lot of hard work, a lot of effort by a lot of people. And so when that happens, that'll be something that now not only the players can enjoy, but also the people that support the players, those people in the stands that make home field so much more special when we get to play in front of our home fans.
All right. Thanks for joining us on our show today, Coach, and good luck in your game versus Portland State on Saturday.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
We'll be back shortly with our next segment of This Week in Big Sky Football.
My Place Hotels is proud to be the official hotel of the Big Sky Conference. Need a hotel for work or just a night away? With over 50 hotels open and more on the way, we want to be your home away from home. Let My Place be your place. Enroll in our new loyalty program and stay rewarded.
Next up on This Week in Big Sky Football is Idaho senior defensive back Lloyd Hightower. Lloyd, thanks for joining us on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
You represented Idaho at the Big Sky kickoff this past summer in Spokane. How was it to be able to get to know other student athletes off the field?
It was a crazy and amazing experience. I've never had anything like that. Normally, in high school, you don't really meet with other captains from, rival schools or even schools in your division. So meeting everyone, seeing all the coaches, seeing all the different schools represented was an amazing experience.
Now, how did you get started playing football, and who were some of your mentors as you were growing up?
Gotta say both my parents. My dad really, my parents didn't force me, but they made sure I was always in a sport as a kid. They didn't care what sport it was. It could have been swimming or tennis. They just wanted me to play a sport. And I ended up gravitating towards football. Started off flag football was my thing. My flag football team, I don't want to, brag or anything, but we were undefeated as a youth. We were undefeated for like a year or two. And that kind of got me started, got my love for the game started. And I'm a big Baltimore Ravens fan, so watching Ray Lewis and Ed Reed as I was growing up was a huge part of it also.
Now, you were a receiver back in high school before moving to the secondary as a freshman. How was that transition for you moving from offense to defense?
I don't want to say a little tricky, but it was challenging to me. Yeah, you almost have to have a different mindset when you're on the defensive end, because when you play offense, you're always just trying to attack, trying to score, trying to beat your opponent with different moves. But when you're on defense, you are playing, you're reacting to what the offense does. You don't know the play. You have your own play call, but you don't have no idea where they're going or what they're about to do. So you have to play smarter. You have to play with more football intelligence. You have to be ready for anything. But it was challenging to say the least. But I'm extremely blessed that I had the opportunity to play defense for the University of Idaho.
You're a California native. What attracted you to the University of Idaho?
The break from traffic and just California being so crowded nowadays. When you come out here to Idaho, to Moscow in specific, you really get a breath of fresh air. You don't really ever get traffic. Moscow's a small town. Population is, I don't think it's over 20,000. But, population where the town or city that I'm from in California, Temecula, is, I think, roughly like 150,000 to 200,000. So it was just a big, the transition was, I loved it, it's so calm out here.
You've been one of the top defensive backs in the Big Sky this season with 8 pass breakups and 2 interceptions. What part of your game did you focus on in improving this offseason?
Really, the coaches just made me work on everything. I specifically wanted to turn, last season I had a good amount of pass breakups. I wanted to turn those pass breakups into interceptions, which I didn't exactly do what I wanted, but I did end up just still having some all right plays. But I really just wanted to focus on my overall game, every aspect, my breaks, my tackling, how conditioned I was, and the coaches really helped me out with that.
You had senior day this past weekend. What was it like playing in Moscow one last time?
A crazy experience. I don't even really know how to describe it. I was filled with so many emotions before the game, emotions that I've never had before a football game. Like not sad, but kind of somber. I've been here for 4 years. This became my home. It was almost like I was playing at home for the last time, which it was. But like the Kibbie Dome has become a part of me, and it's crazy. I feel like I just got here on campus, and now I'm a senior, and it's going to my last game.
What's been one of your favorite memories, either on or off the field, while you've been playing it for the Vandals?
Probably, I say this a lot, but the bowl game my freshman year, coming in as a young freshman, and then going to that bowl game was crazy because I felt it for those seniors. That senior class, they had worked for it. They didn't have a very successful first 2 years, and their third year they're kind of turning the corner. Then that fourth year for those seniors, they end up going to a bowl game, and you could just feel all the work they put in had just paid off, and they all, I don't know, I just love that experience for them for the most part. But it was a great experience to also be a part of as a freshman.
You're a business and marketing major. What are your future aspirations after graduation?
I have a couple of things set up with some friends in Boise. There's an opportunity in Portland at the Nike headquarters that I'm trying to figure out. But honestly, my sister, she's a business marketer in San Francisco, and she loves it. She works for TCOM, and she talks about how much she loves her job and how much she enjoys it. So I don't have anything in specific planned out yet, but I just am kind of exploring all options. And I don't know. It's a hard question. I don't really know what I'm going to do after college.
All right. Well, that's Idaho defensive back Lloyd Hightower. Thanks for joining us on the show, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you so much for having me.
Pluto TV is your one-stop shop for Big Sky action. The leading free internet television service in America will stream live sporting events including up to 700 football, men's and women's basketball, volleyball, and selected soccer, softball, and track and field events. Simply go to Pluto TV to find games from several different sports. Pluto TV is your one-stop shop for all Big Sky action.
Joining us this week is a special guest, Big Sky Commissioner Tom Wistrcill. How are you doing?
Doing great, Carl. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure as always. The Big Sky champion will be crowned this weekend in football, and there could be as many as 5 teams that share the title. How does a scenario like that further emphasize how much depth the Big Sky has?
Well, I've said it many times. I'll continue to say it, that we're the preeminent FCS football conference in the country. And I think that depth and strength of our schedule, the depth of our conference, top to bottom, is just really, really good. And I think week in, week out, you see that. It's kind of scary to think 5 teams could be, what do you call that? It's co-champions, tri-champions, quad champions. I don't even know what you call that. Quinta champions? Is that what it is? That sounds horrible.
Sounds good to me.
But no, I mean, what you find is great balance. And, football is so important to our member institutions. They invest in it so heavily. We got great coaches in our league. The cream rises to the top. It's my first full year here with football, but what's fun to see is, you'd always heard about how wide open the league was and people throwing the ball all over the place. We always have great quarterbacks, it seems, in this league. And that's certainly happening here as well this year. But it's really exciting to have this come down. It makes for an exciting weekend. Saturday to be flipping around to the different channels on Pluto or Root or whatever and finding out what's going on and what's positioning. who's positioning to win the title, and then ultimately who's going to get into the playoff.
The Big Sky not only has great players on the field, but they're also great student athletes. You'll be in New York next month at the National Football Foundation Hall of Fame ceremony where Dennis Erickson will be honored, in addition to Montana State's Dante Olson and Eastern Washington's Spencer Blackburn, who are both William V. Campbell finalists. What's it like as a commissioner to be able to learn about and promote the great things student athletes are doing?
Well, that's why we're in this business, is because of our student athletes. Obviously, if there were no student athletes, there'd be no college athletics. So it doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure that out. But, what you see great student athletes across the board at our conference in every sport, The nice thing about this with football, that the National Football Foundation puts on this great event in New York City every year. It's a who's who of college football through the years, coaches, players, people that are already in the Hall of Fame that are also NFL Hall of Famers. Team owners are there, athletic directors. It's a really big deal. But to be there to support our student athletes is really special, and to have two of ours be finalists. I glanced at the list quickly. We might be the only conference in the country, FBS or FCS, that has two finalists. So that's a pretty exciting thing for us to have. And, what it does is it really provides kind of fuel for our fire, I think, in the conference when we get to see student athletes perform at a high level on the field, but also in the classroom as well. We can talk about the type of people they are. And that's what I'm continually impressed by as I travel around our conference and I'm at events. And last week I was in Sacramento, and I was with the Sacramento softball team. And they were teaching me how to pitch, fast pitch softball. Didn't go very well. But nonetheless, just being around them gives you energy, and you get to see all the great things that they're accomplishing. And that's why it's cool that these two gentlemen are getting this honor as football players, because sometimes people think the stereotypical football player is just a dumb jock, and that's not true when you're around our student athletes and you get a chance to see all the great things they're doing off the field as well as on the field.
The league has 4 teams in the top 10 of the FCS polls heading into the final weekend. What do you think about the Big Sky's chances of getting all 4 teams a bye, and do you think we'll get 5 teams in?
Well, I'd love to have as many teams in as we can, right? Especially if 5 teams tie for the title, then let's get them all in, right? It's interesting. I think in talking with the committee members, and we have obviously Kent Haslam, the AD at Montana, is on the committee. I think we have a really good chance of, I think we're going to get 4 teams in. Now, whether they all get seeded, a lot of that I think has to do with the Montana State game. And obviously Weber and Sacramento would need to win their games this weekend as well. But, if Montana State beats Montana, then I think we have a decent shot of getting 4 seeded teams. I really do. I think we're very deserving of having 4 seeded teams. From the research I've done on it, that's never happened before in FCS football history, where 4 teams have been seeded from one conference. So why not? We might as well be the first one to do it. Let's do it. But I also think that, there's Eastern Washington needs to be in the discussion because of the way they're playing right now. And they've played, when you're the number 1 ranked conference in the country, well, then the teams are going to play the number 1 ranked schedules. Our strength of schedule is so high for our league that Eastern Washington, certainly should be in the discussion as well. So I'm excited to see what happens Saturday. I'll be glued to the TV Sunday morning, just like everyone else on ESPNU to see who gets in and who's playing where. And I'm sure there'll a lot of discussions and arguments about that.
When you look back at so many crazy Big Sky games that occurred this season, what's 1 or 2 of them that stand out the most?
So let's see, a couple of them that stand out. I think, Weber State going into Sacramento State and beating them. I think that was just one hell of a win. And then you see that Weber goes up to Montana, and Montana just rolls over them. Again, just shows the strength of the top of our conference, right, where all these teams are beating up on each other. But, the one that really sticks out in my mind is what happened last weekend down at Northern Arizona, where, if my memory serves me correct, Northern Arizona was up by 10 against Sacramento State with just a couple minutes left. Sac scores a touchdown, gets the onside kick, and then scores another touchdown. They didn't play for the tie. They, threw a couple into the end zone and end up winning the game. And with the backup quarterback, in there as well. So, again, it's never over till it's over. It's one thing about a wide open conference. There might be favorites every week, but nonetheless, there's so much parity in the league and so many, so many crazy things happening. So those are just some of the things that have kind of stuck out at me. And I'm sure there's more to come this Saturday and in the playoffs.
All right, Tom, thanks for joining us on the show this week. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
Well, thanks for having me, Carl, and keep up the good work with the podcast. Love it.
Will do. Thank you very much.
At Jimmy John's, we want your sandwich to arrive freaky fast, so it's freaky fresh. So we only deliver within 5 minutes of our stores, and not farther. Click to order at jimmyjohns.com. 5 minutes is not a guaranteed delivery time. Actual delivery times will vary.
It's time for the one and only Craig Haley from Stats to join us on our show. How are you doing this week, Craig?
Doing real well. This is some weekend ahead that we have. Looking forward to it.
There's so much excitement going on in the Big Sky this weekend. 3 teams are 6-1 in the league, and there could possibly be a 5-way tie for the regular season championship. What are your thoughts on that?
Carl, I think our heads will spin for a week if there's a 5-way tie for the title. Who knows? I mean, we've been surprised before, but I mean, I think you have to love that, there are great matchups to end the season, and of course, it includes the rivalries. I think you have to believe Weber State handled its business at home and prevents from any kind of 5-way tie. But, Cat Grizz can go either way. I mean, I think, Jake Mayer will be charged up for his final game for UC Davis, so that's a tough one for Sac State. But no matter how you slice it, this is a fun way to end the regular season, and we should all be looking forward to it.
A game people should have been watching last weekend was the nightcap between Eastern Washington and Cal Poly. The final minutes were interesting. What does Eastern Washington need to do to be able to get a win this weekend and open the committee's eyes at what they can do?
That would be something. I mean, certainly, Eastern must, win big against Portland State. I mean, if you do, I think it makes the committee members, stop and say, hey, this is the national runner-up program from last year. So I think that would be helpful. I mean, I do believe that the committee prefers a team to have 7 Division I wins. So, Eastern can only get to 6, plus having the Lindenwood win. But so that hurts them, especially when there's going to be more teams with 7 Division I wins, because it's a 12-game regular season. The good news is last year there were some at-large teams that got in with at-large bids with only 6 Division I wins. But I'm not sure the committee wants to do that again when they look at resumes. But obviously, Eastern Washington's a terrific program, and I think that factors in.
North Dakota State has Southern Illinois this weekend. South Dakota State is at South Dakota. How do you see those 2 games playing out?
Yeah, obviously, 2 heavy hitters from the Missouri Valley. I think you go with the favorites here. I mean, I realize Southern Illinois is peaking right now with 5 straight wins, but, they're hosting North Dakota State, and the Bison are playing for a perfect regular season and a 33rd straight win, which would tie their FCS record from a few years back. South Dakota State's, coming off its best win of the year, which was against UNI. I mean, I think they just have to keep the South Dakota quarterback, Austin Simmons, from, really carrying that team in a rivalry matchup. But South Dakota hasn't had quite the big home field advantage that they've had in past years, so I think that helps South Dakota State, and they're playing for a high seed. So I just think both of those teams are going to win this week.
Montana has its highest top 25 ranking of the season at number 3. Sacramento State sits at a school record ranking of number 4. How far have both of these teams come from last season's results?
Oh, they've come far. That's for sure, Carl. I mean, I think this year has proven you could almost throw out last year's Sacramento State season because they had all those injuries. But no matter what, I mean, Troy Taylor has just done a great job in his first year. I mean, it's phenomenal. And, Coach Houck has certainly done that at Montana. I mean, I think Montana has done well to really regroup from their loss at Sac State, and I just think they're on a roll. I mean, last year, you know what? They simply underachieved Montana. I mean, I think they've had this kind of season in them. It's just taken them a few years to get back to this level, and it just looks like the Grizz are here to stay, under Coach Houck.
The top 10 is filled with teams from the Big Sky, Missouri Valley, and CAA. What have these three leagues done over the past 3 years that have separated them from the rest of the group?
Well, for one, the Southern Conference used to be one of the elite conferences, but it hasn't been the same since, Appalachian State and Georgia Southern, moved on to the FBS level. I mean, other than that, you're always going to have maybe a top team from some of the other conferences that'll step forward, but you're just not going to get the depth that you see in the Big Sky, the CAA, the Missouri Valley. I mean, they are the three power conferences, and they're always going to have 4 or 5, 6 top teams per year. So that separates them. It's just the depth of high-level teams.
If the playoffs were this weekend, who would be your last four in?
That's a tough one. I mean, I would say a team like North Dakota, but you know what? They'd be happy just to get in the field. So I think that they don't care if they're 18th or 24th. I mean, usually it's like a runner-up kind of team that are outside the big three conferences, which we just talked about. I mean, like a Furman who could be like the runner-up in the SoCon, or like in the Southland. I mean, right now you would say like a Nichols getting in, or it could be from those big three conferences, but it would have to be like a fourth or a fifth team, like a Southern Illinois and the Missouri Valley. I think they're the one conference that surely is going to get 5, and to me it would be that like a Southern Illinois.
All right, this weekend it's the Brawl of the Wild. Who will it be, Montana or Montana State?
I've gone from Montana to Montana State, back to Montana. I guess it's kind of best you go with your first instinct, and to me that's been the Grizz. I was saying the other day how I love how Montana State kind of handled its business this past week on the road at UC Davis. I mean, that's a big time win when they needed it. No matter what, I'm just rooting for a great game, and it probably will be. I mean, you just don't get more intense than the Brawl of the Wild.
All right, that's Craig Haley of Stats. Thank you, Craig, for joining us, and as always, have a great day.
Carl, appreciate it. Enjoy all the games.
Will do. Big Sky fans, make sure you download the Pluto TV app on your smartphone, tablet, or TV, and check out our new channel lineup in the 500s. Southern Utah at North Dakota, Cal Poly at Northern Colorado, Idaho at Northern Arizona, Portland State at Eastern Washington, and UC Davis at Sacramento State can all be watched on Pluto TV this week. Idaho State at Weber State is the 11 sports game of the week and can also be viewed on Pluto TV. The game is scheduled for a 2 p.m. Mountain Time kickoff in Ogden. The Root Sports Game of the Week features Montana at Montana State. Kickoff is scheduled for 12 p.m. Mountain Time at Bobcat Stadium. Thanks again to Eastern Washington head coach Aaron Best, Idaho defensive back Lloyd Hightower, and Stats Craig Haley. Enjoy this week in Big Sky football.